Hello and welcome to another segment of Hollywood Spin. I'm Sherri Kane.
And I'm Dr. Leonard Horowitz.
Bringing you this review of the film The Dallas Buyers Club. Thanks to our sponsors, Oxy Silver with 528 resonance and Liquid Dentist, a revolutionary new product for healthier teeth, gums, and general immunity. The Dallas Buyers Club was directed by Jean-Marc Vallée with the screenplay by Craig Borton and Melissa Wallach. The film stars Matthew McConaughey, Jennifer Garner, and Jared Leto. Based on true events, the story unfolds in the mid-1980s in Dallas, where electrician, gambler, rodeo hustler, and homophobe macho man Ron Woodruff is confronted with the HIV/AIDS diagnosis early in the pandemic, when homophobia was widespread and the business of AIDS was just beginning by multinational corporations controlling the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and the FDA. This was a time when they were suppressing alternative medicine and the truth about AIDS and its laboratory vaccine industry. In this climate, Ron Woodruff, played very well by McConaughey, works around the genocidal medical system as a hustling entrepreneur to help AIDS patients get natural medicines and restricted drugs available in other parts of the world.
You have tested positive for HIV. Mr. Woodruff, we estimate that you have approximately 30 days.
And newsflash for y'all, ain't nothing out there can kill Ron Woodruff in 30 days. They're drugs. They just released for testing, and I know this hospital's worth the size. I need it.
It doesn't work that way, Mr. Woodruff. Where are you going?
They got good meds out of Mexico that's better than what you can get here in the States.
Woodruff is diagnosed with the disease and refuses professional care due to the bias and the brainwashing of medical doctors by the drug cartel.
I have a court order permitting us to confiscate any and all non-FDA approved drugs or supplements.
You're nothing more than a common drug dealer.
Break with the rest of them.
And that's one thing for me not to like you.
Why can't you be a better friend to yourself?
Don't back down.
Mr. Woodruff, what is going on?
People are dying. I'm gonna be a pain in your ass till I'm 6 feet under, big boy.
Even the best of them all.
America's Most Wanted.
Dr. Horowitz, you're an expert in the field of HIV/AIDS, having written the book, Emerging Viruses, AIDS and Ebola, Nature, Accident, or Intentional. What did you think of this film?
Sherri, I thought it was an excellent film. I thought McConaughey played the role extremely well. I think he's a brilliant actor. And I think that it brings home some extremely serious messages about what society thinks, not simply about HIV/AIDS, but also the Food and Drug Administration, the officials, the medical establishment.
Making a fortune off of this. Let's talk distribution.
Anything to declare, Father?
No, sir, nada. We do realize importing illegal drugs for sale is a very serious offense.
They're not illegal. They're merely unapproved.
I thought it was an excellent film, and I think that everyone should actually see it.
At one point in the film, Woodruff attends a public meeting to confront government officials who claim he is a drug dealer. But the trailer omits his condemnation of the FDA as being a protection racket for the drug cartel. Dr. Horowitz, what can you tell us about this?
Well, Sherri, that's exactly right. I thought it was the most poignant and striking and disturbing part of the whole film, where you had the FDA officials claiming that this man who was clearly, I mean, he was a shyster. The film made him out to be a shyster, and that's sad and sick because there were many people who he helped, and he had a great desire to help people who were suffering from HIV/AIDS who couldn't get the drugs. They couldn't get even the natural medicines. And this particular segment where the FDA is claiming that he's the drug dealer, that he's the bad guy, and I thought it was very appropriate that he called them on it. He exposed the FDA officials as being the real drug dealers, and that's exactly what they are. When you look at the revolving doors between the FDA and Centers for Disease Control, the CDC, and the drug cartel, the pharmaceutical industry, the vaccine industrialists, who push all of these so-called cures or these medicines that are supposedly helping people with HIV/AIDS. Fact of the matter is they've concealed the real science, which shows that they're actually killing people, and that AIDS is a very expensive way to die. It's a very profitable way to die for the drug industrialists that have virtually monopolized the industry. And that's why it was very sick, very sad, this confrontation that he had in this public meeting. That was a very excellent part of the film.
I think another important part of the film is its presentation of the psychosocial challenges of homophobia. Woodruff starts out as an extreme homophobe, gets diagnosed with AIDS, and then is condemned and ostracized by his circle of so-called friends. He is forced to tame his own bias after he realizes gays and transvestites, including the part played by Jared Leto, are his only true friends.
I've been looking for you, Lone Star. I feel better. I wanted to thank you.
Well, unless you got cash or new clients for me, I'm busy.
You got enough for 20 of us?
Welcome to the Dallas Buyers Club.
You treating these people?
No, they're treating themselves.
Ronnie, we got 2 new customers.
You call me Ronnie again? I'm gonna use this to give you that sex change you've been hoping for.
Hi.
TJ, it's Rayon.
Give him a good shake. Give him a good shake. Once you've got HIV, you're married to it.
If you want to go the way that I'm prescribing, you are going to live longer and enjoy the time you got here more.
Indeed, that was an important part of the film where people who empathized with him were exclusively from the homosexual community and transvestites. And what a crazy situation, a mock on society that is actually, to have the sick and sad reality where he had nowhere to turn but to people who are traditionally ostracized themselves. So it was a fascinating discussion, and I think it deals with this matter of self-loathing and social contempt for people who are in great need of relief.
And that's one thing for me not to like you. Why can't you be a better friend to yourself?
Sherri, I know that you're a very astute psychosociologist, and this whole matter of people who turn to homosexuality or people who become transvestites and people who shun those transvestites and homosexuals are people who similarly suffer from this concept of self-loathing. So what can you tell us about background on this aspect of the film that I thought was extremely important?
Well, I think most of the time, in almost all cases, the homophobic personality stems from the person's own insecurity about themselves. So they have a fear of their own sexuality, who they are as a person, and are afraid of whether it's temptation of somebody of the same sex, or they are afraid of what others might think of them, the thought of peer pressure on them.
Or rejection.
And rejection.
From early childhood traumas, perhaps with the opposite sex.
Exactly. And so homophobia is something that is definitely a form of ignorance that stems from lacking your own self-worth, your own confidence in who you are as a person, that you would have to be that discriminatory against another person. Now, homophobia also relates to other parts of discrimination as well. When you discriminate against a person for their religion, you discriminate against a person for their race, for their gender. All of these things actually come from the same place, and that is insecurity. And I like to go back to the gender discrimination, because that also goes hand in hand with homophobia. A lot of times most people that are homophobic are also sexist as well, and I found that to be common. And why are they so offended by a powerful woman, or by a woman who gets a better job than them, or a woman who gets paid more money at her job than them, or just all these other things come into play? Why are they so offended by it? And it goes right back down to how people actually have manipulated the Bible, and interpreted it in their own way to say that women are less than men, or women are subordinate to men. And that is another thing that also comes into play, is how they were brought up and what was indoctrinated into them to believe that. And even the homophobia part can come also from what they read in the Bible. And that is not what Jesus preached. Jesus preached love, so that's where people have it all wrong. And you shouldn't judge, because also it talks about that in the Bible, judgments toward others. And
judge ye not, lest ye be judged.
Exactly.
Also, the social context of homophobia in the film was also associated with the manner in which the pandemic initially was cast in a homophobic light. It was allegedly gay men who started this pandemic, and that was actually completely false. In fact, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and the United States Congress actually had done an investigation that whitewashed the entire matter of the origin of AIDS. And in the book, Emerging Viruses, AIDS and Ebola, Nature, Accident, or Intentional, I share with you the science and the documentation in the United States government contracts that proved beyond any reasonable doubt the director of the Merck Pharmaceutical Company's vaccine initiative, Dr. Maurice Hilleman, who actually admitted bringing AIDS-laced or tainted monkeys into the New York area for pharmaceutical research and development, where he says he brought the AIDS virus into North America in contaminated monkeys. In fact, he brought them in contaminated chimpanzees, according to the contracts. You had people who actually were the laboratory creators of this particular virus and this pandemic, highly profitable to the pharmaceutical cartel, as well as profitable for those who wish to depopulate the planet. We're now looking at about 7 billion people on this planet. The powers that be had sought to reduce that to about 500 million. So you have the ideal way, slow kill, highly profitable virus, and of course, blame it on gays. Blame it on a minority group within society that the Christian right, the fundamentalist right, look down upon, who basically then gives a scapegoat to this hideous travesty we call HIV/AIDS today. And I think the fear and the phobia that was spread by Dr. Robert Gallo and those who were involved with him at Lytton Bionetics Research Labs, it was the early hepatitis B vaccines that were contaminated with the chimpanzee viruses. This was particularly HIV. Human AIDS virus is about 62% identical to the chimpanzee simian immunodeficiency virus from the chimp. And so all of the science actually speaks to the emergence of this disease right after the 1972 to 74 hepatitis B vaccines that were given to gay men in New York City. So isn't this interesting that the powers that be would flip the whole thing around, cause more homophobia, cause more social unrest and division between people, and play on people's fears, play on their self-loathing, play on their projections of their own insecurities to take advantage of the market, so to speak, of HIV/AIDS.
Definitely. It certainly plays into the divide and conquer game, and that's what really where their money is on the wars. And that's really how they're able to keep the divide and conquer game going, because there's not enough people that are standing up and saying, you know what? I'm okay with it, or I do it myself, or, I mean, there's not enough people coming to it because they want to play ball and they want to fit in and they want to play the old politics games, which also is how we wage wars, through politics. And so it's all coming down to making money, making war, forget the peace, forget the love, and let's keep the divide and conquer and the hate going.
Well, that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us on this segment of Hollywood Spin, where we analyze the Dallas Buyers Club today, give you the background intelligence on the spin coming out of Hollywood propaganda. Thanks to our sponsors, you folks out there who contribute to us, as well as those who contribute to us through oxysilver.com, liquiddentist.net, cureshop.com, and worldapothecary.com. Thanks for joining us. I'm Dr. Len Horowitz.
And I'm Sherri Kane. Until next time.
Be a pain in your ass till I'm 6 feet under, big boy.